New York Times poll today, Buck. Republicans +4 in the congressional race. Pretty significant number. You might say 49-45. That doesn't. No. If the Republicans win nationwide by 4, that's a landslide, all right? Trump versus Biden head-to-head right now. Trump, Mar-a-Lago, everything else. Trump's +1 in the New York Times poll. If Trump is +1 in the New York Times poll, again, what's the real number? Biden job approval, 39%. Independents' opinion of Joe Biden, 33% positive, 63% negative. He's -30 right now for people who don't affiliate with either party. And for independents in this midterm election, these are people who are not Democrats, not Republicans. Right now, Republicans have a +10 margin. This is important, Buck, because all those people that are making decisions in this next 3 weeks that haven't really decided which way they're going, they're all starting to break Republican. And that's why I think we're moving from a discussion of a red wave to, I don't think it's crazy to think we may see a red tsunami. Again, just sharing the data from the New York Times Siena poll that came out in the last 24 hours. For a long time, they've been trying to say, there's not going to be much of a red wave. Maybe Democrats are going to gain. No. This is going to be, I think, I hope I'm right, but based on the data and the trend lines, it's going to be a red tsunami.
If not now, when?
Yeah.
Given what we're seeing, when you look at the failures of the Democrat apparatus, and we can expand it even beyond Biden, on COVID, on the economy, on the border, on crime, on schools, the closing of them, on schools, the teaching of children, this transgender ideology at a very young age, drag queen story hour for 5-year-olds. I mean, all this stuff, all these things you see going on, you say, and competing against women in sports, and you just go on this list. If we can't win a huge election right now, what do the Democrats actually have to do?
Yeah. There have to be consequences.
You wonder at some point, can they just get away with absolutely anything? I mean, is this country essentially lost to the people that are brainwashed? I mean, I hope not, and I think not, to your point of where the polls are. But if not now, my friends, when?
Been talking about the building wave that I think may turn into a tsunami. New York Times poll that I shared with you to start the show, Republicans now with a 4-point lead in this poll. But I'm reading online, independent women voters. Probably some independent women voters out there listening to Clay and Buck right now because they're desperate for sanity in an insane world. We welcome you. They were backing Democrats by 14 points in September. According to this latest New York Times poll, this is New York Times, one poll in September, one poll in October. They now back Republicans by 18 points. That is a 32-point shift in the space of 1 month. Now, I think probably what it shows, Buck, and I know all of you out there listening right now, all of us in the wake of 2016, Trump's win, are skeptical of polls in general. But if polls have traditionally been, and it's fair to say that they have been, arrayed in a way that Republicans are undercounted, think about what might happen if Republicans are now ahead in many of these polls. And we know, I mean, you do, Buck, I know a lot of people who just say, hey, I get a telephone call, somebody asking me what I think about politics. The last thing I want to do is share any info with them. I still think it makes it hard to get Republican voters to even participate in polls in the first place. But that's why I think these trend lines, let me hit you with these two, Buck. Last 5, New York Times, Republicans +4. Harvard-Harris poll, Republicans +6. Rasmussen, Republicans +7. CBS, Republicans +2. Trafalgar, Republicans +5. Those are the last 5 major polls, and they're kind of telling you all the same trend as we sit here 22 days out from the actual election.
Yeah, well, like I said, if it's not going to happen now, when is it going to happen? If the Democrats had, we talked about at the top of the show, Clay, the Harvard-Harris poll and the top issues and how Republicans are considered to be aligned, at least, focused on the top issues. Democrats are focused on January 6th, abortion, and then it goes into crazy town, like climate change, election integrity, which is just another version of our democracy is under threat, and all this stuff that they're throwing our way. If they had things to point to say, we did the following, this has made Americans' lives better, it would be blanketing the airwaves. I mean, they're not that stupid. If they had good arguments, you'd begin to hear them. Even if they had arguments that weren't fair and honest, but at least were effective on the merits, they are trying to win an election. It's what is it when the facts? You know this, lawyer man. When you have the facts, you pound the facts. When they have the law, you pound the law. When you have neither, you just pound the table, right? Isn't that basically the fool the ones can't get through the
every
gambit.
lawyer out there, Buck, has been in a situation where you ain't got the facts and you ain't got the law on your side, and had to pound the table every now and then, because you get paid to be an advocate, but sometimes you look at it and you're like, boy, this ain't a great advocate position. Every lawyer's been there.
Remember when Frank the Tank in Old School loses it in the locker room after he gets burned jumping through the flaming hoop? And he's like, you got to keep your composure, and he's throwing the chair around. Democrats at this phase are whacking the chair around the locker room, yelling, but January 6th, you got to just focus on January 6th. It's like, I don't think that's going to work.
What's your favorite Old School line by? That movie is so good.
Oh, man.
I'll tell you my favorite. You can think for a moment. When they're having the party and
by the pool? When he shoots it with the tranquilizer dart?
Oh, no, that's amazing. But no, when Will Ferrell is...
Oh, the big party. Okay,
yeah, the big party. And one of the guys is like, hey, you want to do I guess it's like a
beer bong. Isn't it a beer bong?
Yeah, that's right. You want to do the beer bong? And he's like, no, we got to go to home. And I'm paraphrasing. We got to go to Home Depot. We got a big Saturday plan.
He goes, I don't know if we got enough time.
You might go to Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know if we're going to have enough time. And the guy just looks at him and then thinks he's making a joke and starts to laugh. And he just takes the beer bong. That line is, I think, absolutely amazing. I was actually thinking about it when you were texting me over the weekend. You're like, yeah, we got to get to Target. I was like, hey, Buck's getting married. Weekend trip to Target. He's ready to roll.
Yeah, man.
That movie is so good.
It is fantastic for what it is. And then it's kind of like our generation's Animal House.
Yeah, I
if
think
you go
that's a
back
good way
and
of
watch
putting it.
Animal House, it would be considered very, very problematic by today's standards.
Every
I'm sure.
funny movie that you have watched in the last 40 years is almost unacceptable by today's comedy standards.
I mean, when was the last time you saw something that came out, not including stand-up comedy specials, and even those generally are terrible these days. There are some that are good. When was the last time you saw a movie that was a comedy, not like funny for kids, Pixar stuff, but like a funny movie for adults?
Such a good question.
Where you said, this is like, I mean, I remember going to see movies in the theater like There's Something About Mary and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And laughing so hard that like actual ribs were getting sore, kind of, your rib cage was getting sore from it. I haven't had that experience with anything that we've seen in a very long time.
It's a good question, because I'm thinking the last couple of movies that and it's been a long time now, that really made me laugh in a theater. Again, not on streaming, not a stand-up comedy special, something like that. And I don't even know when these movies came out now. The Hangover, the first Hangover was a legitimately hysterical.
I think that might be the most successful rated R comedy of all time. I think it might be, yeah.
And then Superbad, which is just, I mean, that movie is absolutely hysterical. But I'm probably dating myself. When did Hangover and Superbad come out? Like
at least 10, 15 years ago, we're talking about. It's been a little while. So, yeah, the woke libs have basically destroyed comedy. I mean, they're trying to destroy sports, but we're holding the line.
I'm fighting as many. I understand people out there who are done with sports. I can't give up sports. I'm trying to fight on the inside to make sports something that everybody can enjoy still, and that's not overtaken by woke imbeciles. But I understand why so many people actually are fed up and can't do it. I totally understand.
So back to we've had some digressions today, as one does. Back to where we are in this election cycle. I think things are lining up in a really good way. I do think that it'll be fascinating. Usually I feel like you have a midterm election and then there's this pause. And we've talked about this a little bit. There's this pause after the midterm where, well, one side is obviously happy. The other side, if they lost seats, they lost control of the House or the Senate, they're upset. Yeah, of course, that's to be expected. But then there's all right, maybe we got a little while here before we really start before we start dialing into who is going to be effectively the leader of the Republican Party, who's going to be the leader of the Democrat Party. We're going to be in a presidential election certainly by January of 2023, but really, I think
November
the week
9th.
After this election.
The morning after, whenever the Democrat ballots stop coming in, getting counted, Buck. So maybe it'll be November 12th. But as soon as the final tallies are in, we're going to be on. And I think we're going to have such a big wave that even if there's all sorts of shenanigans going on, I think Republicans are going to win. But I think it's starting almost instantaneously as soon as the midterms are over.
And look, it matters, right? I mean, we sit here, we talk about political back and forth and which party's in power. This is not just horse race stuff. This isn't just, well, it's interesting and it's an intellectual digression or diversion. This is whether or not you can pay your bills, folks. And you all know this. This is whether or not your job, your industry is going to be able to continue on, perhaps even be around in 6, 12, 18 months' time. I mean, this stuff matters. And we talk about nuclear war. We talk about what's going on in Ukraine. All of this put together is, I think, right now, people seeing a moment in time where the wrong people making the decisions has an impact on your life in a way that you ignore at your peril. So we're all, you're in this one way or the other. You can either be proactive or get pulled into it, but we're all in this fight.